So I'm Bridget, and I do gameplay programming for Mina. Been on the team for like a couple years.
So Bridget, what was the biggest challenge recreating like the retro feel from a gameplay standpoint?
I think what's challenging is like purposely imposing restrictions on ourselves, right? So like to get that classic Game Boy feel, we really want to like limit the palette. We really want to limit like aspects of the game. Like we don't want the enemies to be like too smart. We don't want there to be like too many colors. There's a lot of like little details that I think make a big difference.
What games did you play in preparation when you were starting to program the gameplay for this title?
Definitely like a lot of Zelda, a lot of Castlevania, also kind of some Souls games too. Like when we found that like when we combined Zelda and Castlevania together, you accidentally get this like kind of Souls feel. So I feel like we've been leaning into that a lot too.
Like jumping is a big thing in this game. Like how do you make that feel well and work well with the isometric camera or the top-down camera angle?
It's definitely been challenging, and it's something that we talk about a lot. Like we definitely have a lot of conversations about like high versus low combat. The verticality, yeah, like whether or not, like, you know, rules about like when the player should be able to get hit during burrow or not during burrow, rules about like when you can get hit or not get hit with an enemy that's like higher than you or lower than you. So I feel like it looks 2D, but it like there's a lot of weird like 3D wiggle room in there.
What about like knockback? How do you like tune that to make it feel like, you know, not as punishing as it probably should be?
Yeah, I feel like we're trying to make it like not too punishing, but like kind of intuitive. If it looks like an enemy is gonna like really hit you, like currently you can get knocked back like pretty far. But I think overall, like we don't want it to be like as punishing as a true Souls game. I think it's going to be more difficult than like your average, like, you know, like something like Link's Awakening. I think sometimes people like they see like that Game Boy art style and they might guess that it's like Zelda difficulty, but I think it's a little bit more difficult, but we don't want it to be like a true Souls game. That's probably like too punishing.
You talked about like, you know, putting restrictions on yourself. Is that difficult when you're trying to like use modern technology to replicate a game made in the 90s?
Well, I mean, sometimes it's difficult. I think the restrictions aim to make it less difficult. I think that the restrictions like help us to reduce like the amount of decisions that we have to make and help us like streamline and focus on what's important. Like technically also the restrictions, like they help us to make, you know, enemies and objects that feel closer to Game Boy than like to like a modern game.
What do you think is the biggest misconception from an outsider looking in at game development as a programmer?
I feel like it's difficult to like describe to people because like a lot of people don't have like a good concept of like what programming is to start with. So like you're starting from nothing conceptually. Like if you don't know what programming is, it can be kind of difficult to like understand what the job might be. But really it's like I don't know, it's like baking a cake, right? Like people provide different ingredients and then like a lot of the work comes down to like actually making the thing function. Like when you're holding the controller, right? Like it's making the things happen.
Can you talk about how you work with the designer when you implement new mechanics and weapons and enemies and movement and stuff like that?
You know, the way that we work is like our designers, right, will like write up in like a big document, like a list of like all the different attributes and like cool like attacks and stuff for something like an enemy or, you know, different features of an object. That'll get passed to our pixel artist who, you know, makes awesome sprites, and then once like the sprites are ready to go, then it gets passed to me or like another programmer on the team, and then like it becomes like a back and forth where, you know, it's alternating between, you know, doing a pass of changes and then like pushing it off for feedback. And so it's definitely like very collaborative, and like because like just because something is written on paper doesn't mean that it'll be fun. So it's definitely like a big back and forth between like myself and a designer to like actually not only make it match what the original design intention was, but also kind of take it beyond that and make sure that it's like a really fun thing to play against.
And then there's a little bit of marketing here, but like, so when does the game come out and where can people go to find more information about Mina the Hollower?
So we don't have a release date announced yet, but you can like check out our Kickstarter, our Twitter, our Discord, our Twitch. I feel like we've been like having a really good time on Discord in particular. Like the official one's been really fun to like interact with fans and like interact with people who, you know, have questions. But I would say like our social media is like the big